Welcome back to another episode of
Dick Danglers Anonymous.
We're still workshopping that. I'm Sean Snipacelli, and with me, as always, is Doug DeGoalhorn. We're here to bring you the latest news on the NHL. But first, Doug has a little something he'd like to say about our recent hiatus the past couple of weeks. Doug?
What?
The judge said you have to offer a public apology. So do it.
If mascots want to act that tough, they should be able to back it up.
You don't think the crowbar was a bit much?
Oh, so I'm supposed to know they don't have a bunch of padding down there?
I guess we're going to roll the dice with that as an apology. But we'll move on to some real news. In a recent story outlining the careers of Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin, the Great Eight stated that him and Crosby actually saved the league after a 2004 lockout. A lot of people have some strong opinions about this, but what are your thoughts, Doug?
Hard to argue with that, especially after watching Bettman's masterclass in destroying it.
Over 20 years on the job, if you could call it that, overseeing 3 separate lockouts, none more damaging than the 1994 lockout that saw the NHL stall at a time of premium growth.
That dude sucks.
Must be why the owners like him.
Was that a dirty joke?
No, of course not. I would never stoop to that level.
Much like the way Bettman would?
Right you are, Doug. And in our next story, we are going to look north as Canadian teams continue to dominate the headlines for all the wrong reasons. In Calgary, Nikita Zadorov has requested a trade 4 whole months before the trade deadline. His agent seemed to cite reasons of ice time being the issue. It feels like there's a lot there, though. Doug?
Gee willikers. Those Flames just can't hold on to their players.
You bring up an interesting point, Doug, as we've already seen the exodus of Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau, but on top of that, we are expecting Elias Lindholm and Noah Hanifin to hit the free agency this offseason, just leading to more talent bleeding from the Flames organization.
It's like that one story where the Egyptians lost all of their players to some dude in the desert. Hey, maybe he goes to Arizona.
Those weren't players, and it's pretty insensitive to... Wait, hold on. There's no way you've read the Bible.
The Bible? No. I'm talking about the Prince of Egypt. They sang a whole song about it, dude. The guy came in, they sent too many frogs, so they had to give him all the players.
I think you've drastically misunderstood that scene.
Whatever. All I know is God's team has been absolutely stacked since.
Right you are, Doug. Unfortunately, just a couple hours away, the Edmonton Oilers situation looks like it has hit rock bottom, even with them mixing in a couple wins over the past couple weeks.
No way, it's gotten worse.
Well, they did lose to the Sharks.
Oof. Well, guess it's time for Plan Dugginator.
I don't even want to ask, but what is Plan Dugginator?
So glad you asked. The first thing I would do is I would send Campbell down to the AHL, let him get his confidence back up. Then I fire the coach, bingo, bango, gone. And then I immediately spread rumors that the GM is on his way out. Last season, baby. Let's go.
Well, you've nailed it, Doug, because that's exactly what they did. They sent Jack Campbell down to the AHL. They moved on from Jay Woodcroft as coach, and rumors immediately spiked that this is Ken Holland's last year in charge of the franchise itself. But fans have pointed out a couple flaws with this recent course of action.
Like what?
Well, Campbell was actually the goalie performing better than Skinner, if just by a slight margin.
Okay, but...
And for the coaching carousel, Woodcroft had consistently had this team performing at a high level and is beloved by the players, and fans pointed out a pretty decent point that it was the team's designer that should have been fired.
But that's why you spread the rumor.
Which is an excellent point, but you have now told your GM that he is screwed and still left him with enough power to make franchise-altering deals without a rat's behind care of how it affects the team long-term.
Well, how are they doing now?
They did go on a 3-game winning streak, but followed that up with a 3-game losing streak until last night's semi-impressive win against the Capitals.
Better? But yeah, I probably need some more practice before I'm running an actual franchise.
To be fair, Doug, so do the Oilers. But you're good enough for this show, which says a lot more about me than I'd like to admit. Now let's move to the desert for a little hockey talk, as a recent quarterly report from Scripps shows that Arizona's viewing is up by 900%. Local experts are crediting the increased spending on ads.
Isn't this like the first time in over a decade the Yotes are even competitive?
Now hold your horses there, Doug. The Arizona Coyotes technically made the playoffs in 2020.
The bubble year. What place in the standings were they at the end of the season?
They were 22nd.
Yeah, I don't think it's the ads.
Maybe you can run a franchise someday. Good work, Doug.
Gotta be all those hot college girls at the new college arena they're at.
I refuse to believe you didn't just set me up for that. In other news, the Carolina Hurricanes had a highly anticipated game against the Tampa Bay Lightning last night. These two teams have developed quite a rivalry.
Oh yeah, I saw that one.
I bet you did, Doug, because the Canes are back in the record books. Or at least, I should say, their goaltending is. As starting goaltender, Antti Ranta allowed 8 goals on 14 shots, posting a .429 save percentage, the lowest recorded save percentage since the league started tracking that stat over 40 years ago.
I do love a record-setting performance.
Right you are, Doug. But let's see how Hurricanes superfan, low-quality Canes fan feels about this recent game. Loqual, are you there?
I'm making a Dugginator, but instead of vodka, I'm using tequila.
Oh, cool. He's making a Snipinator.
Is that... Did you name a drink after me?
Hell yeah, dude. 24 ounces tequila, 3 ice cubes. Tequila is an upper, and you pump me up, so I call it a Snipinator.
God, you're an idiot. But let's move on to our final story of the night, as Islanders fans are getting a little frisky. Now, they're not outright terrible, but the Islanders are looking less than engaged to start this season. And at a recent game, you could hear Fire Lambert chants going through the crowd.
People love a good chant.
Right you are, Doug. But one player did come to the defense of his humiliated coach. Casey Cizikas, after the game, had this to say. I've got no time for those fans. I've got no time for them. If they want to be like that, they can stay home.
Hey, gotta admire the confidence, though.
What do you mean by that, Doug?
Well, I'm just saying, I'm not going to an Islanders game to watch a guy who hasn't had more points than Pims in a season since, what, last decade?
Well, that might not really be fair, as he's a grinder. Maybe he fights a lot to rack up those Pims.
Averages 1 fight a year.
Oh. Not great.
Nope.
And as usual, we'll end the episode with a couple of fan questions. And remember, if you have any fan questions, feel free to put them below, and you may see your questions answered on next week's episode. Doug, are you ready?
Are they all for me?
Yeah, pretty much.
Heck yeah.
The first question comes from Cameron Peters, who asks, after looking at this year's NHL Hall of Fame nominations, who do you think makes it in? Now, unfortunately, we missed the boat with this due to our little hiatus, but do you feel like anyone was clearly snubbed from the Hall of Fame this year?
McGillney, obviously.
Dude was a stud. Well, he's a great player, but the Hall of Fame is never guaranteed.
Oh yeah? Well, you can guarantee these nuts, Sean.
Okay. That strikes a nerve with Doug. Here we go. This needlessly insulting question comes from Wax Drip Buzz. He asks, hey Doug, your co-host is a know-it-all hack. Anyway, why are the Bruins outperforming everyone's expectations for this season so far? And unlike Tom Brady, does this prove that the system was in fact more important than the star?
Goaltending.
And for the second part of the question, system will always be more important than the stars in Boston. That's just Bruins hockey. But you can make the argument the stars were the ones who put in the system in the first place. That way of playing is Bergeron's legacy. Just like it was Chara's before his, Bork's before his, and so on and so forth. Probably back to the 70s. Good answer, Doug. This next hurtful question comes from the Brown Tiger. He asks, Doug, how do we get rid of Sean Snipacelli and make it the Doug Show? Also, if you were a hockey player, what position would you play?
The talent always needs a setup man. And I've always been really good at using my head, so probably a goalie.
What is the correlation there?
Well, your head's your biggest organ, so, I can just bat the puck away.
Right you are, Doug. And for our final question, and my favorite question of the night, from longtime listener Dickie Darkside, he asks, my question is for both of you. Throughout all the arenas, which is your favorite of all goal horns? Mine is Doug's mom.
Wait, I don't get it.
Right you are, Dickie. Right you are. That'll do it from us. Thank you for everyone who sent in questions this week, and I do apologize about the delay, and I apologize that we can't get to every question sent in. But if you are enjoying these episodes, feel free to share with friends as we try to boost our revenue to pay for all of Doug's fines from the FCC. Thank you for watching, and as always, from our team to yours, have a great night. Seriously, what did he mean by that?
Thank you for watching, guys, and once again, a shout out to our top line tier members, Aaron, Darren Woodbury, Micro Sausage, Breathe In, Breathe Out, Brett Arney, Pincent, The Atomic Lizard, Bradley Johnson, Aaron Adams, Justin Barnard, and Nick Citrullo, and of course, a huge shout out to our all-star tier members, Jason Ozzy Bruin, Thupton Ditashi, Jonathan Harvey, DeKingery, The Only Newts, A Tasty Snack, Jacob Pratt, Doots42, and Jeremy. You guys are absolute studs, and I appreciate every single one of you.